Hey, everybody. Welcome to another UFFS podcast. We'll call this version number 4. Specific again to the UFHL, which we're always talking hockey because hockey is just what's happening right now. And welcome to the great Larry Fisher. How you doing, Larry?
Doing good, Darren. Exciting times. We're less than a week away from the puck drop on the NHL playoffs, which means the UFHL playoffs are getting underway too. So it's going to be an awesome August-long weekend and really an awesome month of August. There's going to be more hockey than we could possibly hope to watch. So can't wait.
I know we're in a heat wave here in Manitoba. It's not usual to be under a heat wave and 40-degree humidex and sitting on the couch watching hockey. So this is going to be interesting for a lot of people. We'll see how this goes. I wanted to point out today, wearing my Rider hat. I know this is about hockey. The only reason I'm wearing it is because I'm in high hopes that the CFL can figure something out because they have identified Winnipeg as a hub city, and I live, of course, near Winnipeg, so I'm hopeful. I won't probably be able to watch it live, but there'll be some buzz, right? So that's why I'm wearing this. Plus, I got the merch.
Nice, yeah. I mean, obviously Riders. I'm from Saskatchewan too, so the whole family's hoping. I think they're more hopeful that the Riders get going than the NHL playoffs. To be honest, a lot of people in Saskatchewan have a big void right now because this is, like I said, this is football season. That's the sport that we're used to watching in the summer and at the lake. Everywhere else, everyone's got the Rider games on. It is rare. Like I said, I think Kelowna is where I'm at, and we're going to be, I think, the 35, 37 all week is our temperatures, and going into the weekend, it might cool off a bit, but I think it's going to be, like I said, weird to be watching hockey. I think everybody's used to be watching football, and hopefully Labor Day is only a month away now, and I know if the CFL kicks off, Labor Day is always a big day in the CFL, the Banjo Bowl, everything else. I think that would be the ideal time to kick it off. You're right. I don't think there'd be any fans in the stadium in Winnipeg, but it would be great to have football on Labor Day and carry through the end of November, Grey Cup, a really short season. Maybe every team plays each other once, or maybe you somehow get 2 games a week instead of just 1. I don't know how that would be for the Players Association and taxing on the body, but ideally they could fit in as many games as possible between Labor Day and the end of November.
Yeah, they got a lot of things to figure out, including government, federal funding. We'll see if that happens. But enough about the CFL. We'll let that. We'll leave that up to the people in the know and the people worrying about that. We're going to talk hockey. So on this podcast, we're going to talk about the NHL about to get going, which we did a little bit. The Founders Cup champs. We'll give some credence to those people. The UFHL Klein Cup, NHL Stanley Cup pool, we got to make sure we detail what's happening with that. That's very exciting. And some important dates coming up in the UFHL. And we're going to do an interesting thing called the pro versus the rookie. And we're going to do some picks on the elimination round on both UFHL and NHL Stanley Cup. We'll call you the pro. We'll call me the rookie, and I am definitely the rookie. But sometimes the rookies get lucky, Larry. So we'll see what happens. Depends on injuries and whatever's happening. But we'll see.
It's going to be a real guessing game this year, to be honest, because nobody really knows what to expect, right? You said injuries, that's going to be a key factor, and nobody's played hockey since March 12th. So, I mean, that's a long layoff. We're going to see who's been working out and who hasn't and all the rest. So, I mean, I don't think any prediction is solid. I think every team is ripe for an upset or nobody knows how these are going to play out. So every pick is essentially a guess this year, in my opinion.
So what do you think on these exhibition games, in your opinion? Is that just ripe for an injury? Like I'd be really scared to put my number 1 guys out there in an exhibition game, wouldn't you?
Well, especially they're putting the rivalries for the exhibition game. You got Edmonton-Calgary going at it tonight. Zach Kassian and Matthew Tkachuk. I think they're going to go through the motions and just get up to speed and get a real game speed going. I think it's going to be a pretty relaxed exhibition game, in all honesty. I don't think we're going to see any Battle of Alberta line brawls or goalie fights or anything crazy. I think across the league, everybody's going to be getting up to speed and just kind of getting that feel of playing against somebody else, that live contact, live action again, which is important because come Saturday, the real bullets start flying and it's a best of 5. So every game matters. You fall down, you lose that first one because you're not ready, and you only got 2 more chances to get back into it before you're out. So best of 5 really tightens things up. So I do think the exhibition games are an important tune-up, but I expect them to be glorified rec hockey games. I don't think they're going to be trying to kill each other or going full throttle, but they got to get up to speed and they got to get used to feeling that contact again.
Yeah, you're probably right. It'll be pretty relaxed. Nobody's going to, cause anything that's going to affect their playoff run. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. So, we're not going to get into a lot of details on the NHL because there's 1,000,001 podcasts and more experts out there than you and I. But although you are an expert, so I will include you in that expert group. But, here's one thing interesting I read, and I didn't really think about it until I read it in the paper. But, these guys are all staying under the same roof in a lot of cases. And I just wonder, how do you think they're going to get along? Do you think there's going to be some fistfights in the lobbies? What do you think is going to happen there?
It's going to be interesting. And they're already arriving in Edmonton, or they're there and in Toronto, and there's chirping going on. And of course, that there is some bad blood between some of these teams that, those rivalries, they don't go away even when COVID sidelined everybody for however many months. So you're right. There could be some tension back in the lobby, and there's going to be a lot of pent up, whatever you want to call it, energy, because no wives, no kids. These guys are all living the bachelor life, and they're really confined. Like it's honestly a bubble. There's actual steel, concrete barriers, corridors around with fencing and stuff. I mean, it's like a prison almost. They're stuck in this bubble, and they're not going to be leaving too much. So I think a little bit of cabin fever and everything else. You can only watch so many different shows on Netflix. If your team goes all the way and you're there from now or August 1st all the way till the beginning of October, that's a long time to be under one roof, basically living the hotel life, or like I said, cabin fever. So there'll be some tension for sure, and some rivalries back at the hotel carry off the ice, I'm sure. But everybody knows the importance of A, not getting a COVID outbreak, and B, finishing these playoffs on a positive note for revenue for the entire league, the players for their salaries next season. So they're professionals. I think they'll keep it as professional as possible.
That's what I was reading. Some of the hockey players who interviewed said, we're professionals. We're just more than happy to get a chance to play. So we're not really going to ruin this thing. But I think there might be some more interesting stories coming out of the bubble atmosphere than some of the things that happen on ice. But one of the quotes I did like is Tuukka Rask from the Bruins, of course. I almost wore my Bruins jersey, but I thought, oh, wait, that might preface my pick, by the way. But Tuukka Rask said, yeah, we're professionals. We'll probably get along, but let me tell you, there's going to be some heated rivalries. And let's just say some of the guys probably won't be playing ping pong in the hotel. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, and Tuukka Rask is a passionate guy. He's a fiery guy too. And you got Brad Marchand on the Bruins. He's not the most loved guy around the league. So those Toronto hotels could be just as interesting as the Edmonton hotels. And you're right. I'm sure we'll hear some stories trickling out of there during and after the playoffs. That'll be pretty entertaining.
And I think Tuukka Rask is a housemate or a roommate, actually, of Brad Marchand. I think I read, so we'll see. That could be interesting too. But lots of fun there.
They might get sick of each other by October if they go all the way.
They probably will. So so August 1st coming up. There's going to be a lot of hockey for anyone that's interested in that. I would say just set the PVR, because there's going to be a lot of outside time, but you'll have enough hockey to watch. The interesting thing is, it's going to be one of those things, you sit around with people around the campfire and they're like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know the score. And there's going to be so many scores to announce. You're just going to have to zip your lip. It's going to be really frustrating. It's going to be hard to do. But we'll see.
The whole no spoilers thing is going to be tough, especially in the day and age of social media. You won't be able to open up any of your Facebook or Twitter or, any of your text messages even. There'll be spoilers flying left and right. But you're right. I mean, sun up to sundown basically is hockey. I'm on Pacific time Saturday. There's 6 games starting at 9 a.m. my time, and the last game started at 7:30 at night. So it's going till after 10 p.m. So you could say a full 12, 13 hours of hockey, both Saturday and Sunday of the August long weekend. But, we're in Kelowna. There's a lot of golf. There's a lot of nice beaches. There's a big lake just down the road. So, I mean, I think it'll be tempting to be a couch potato, but you only get one August long weekend every year too. So you want to make the most of that outdoor time if it's a nice day. And like I said, rely on the PVR as much as possible.
Well, I hope everybody gets a little bit of everything in, a little bit of hockey, beach, and golf. That would be actually the optimum. So let's talk a little bit about the Founders Cup, the champs in the UFHL. So this was the first time we were able to award the Founders Cup. The season came to an abrupt halt that we all know about. We don't need to go over that. Want to give a big congratulations to Connie Karanduk of the Grizzlies. Took home the the winning score tokens and, some of the prize money in terms of winning the regular season, which we call the Founders Cup in the UFHL. So well done. It was a strong team. They were always tough to beat from the beginning. So good job.
Yeah, congratulations to the Grizzlies. Obviously, the UFHL, the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League, the draft was held on January 17th. That's when the season launched. So it's sort of a mid-season launch. The games started counting, the points started counting on January 20th. And it obviously ended abruptly, like you said, on March 12th. So essentially 2 months of gameplay. What really put the Grizzlies over the top, Connie and Andrea Karandak are Oilers fans at heart, and they went heavy on the Oilers. They drafted Leon Draisaitl and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and that line was the hottest line in hockey with Tyler Yamamoto flanking those two, Draisaitl and Nugent-Hopkins. So they really carried the Grizzlies, and top to bottom, that was a good team. But when you pick players from your favorite team and they perform and bring you home some score tokens and some money, that's obviously a nice bonus. It's a win-win when your team's playing well and your players are playing well in fantasy as well. So congratulations to the Grizzlies, and they owe the Oilers a big thank you for that strong second half from that line.
Good job, Grizzlies. Let's see how you pick into our picks coming on the pro versus the rookie predictions. So, Larry, you came up along with UFFS brass here on a very original thing that I think is going to keep people quite entertained during the playoff run here, and it's called the UFHL NHL playoff pool. You want to explain how this is going to work? And I know I want to say it off the top because I don't want to forget about it. We have a very, very intense deadline coming up, and it's going to be Friday to get involved in this thing. And there's a good reason why everybody should, because it's not going to cost them anything. But you want to explain how this is going to work?
Yeah, so you're right. It's free entry or free to enter, and the deadline is Friday because the game starts Saturday. So you got to get your picks in by Friday. Basically, I do this similar pool. I've been doing it for a few years with friends outside of the UFHL, and it's always a real hoot, and it's fun to follow. And the main thing is it's going to keep people interested and following both the NHL playoffs, which most people will be anyway, but specifically the UFHL playoffs. It's important for the franchise owners and the scouts to get to know these players and these rosters in the UFHL, who owns who. And a lot of the owners will already know that because they're scouring the rosters for potential trade targets, and they'll know which teams own which players. But I think that's the main reason we incorporated the UFHL for sure, and want to put a priority on the UFHL is to get the owners used to and accustomed to each other's rosters. And obviously that'll help down the road when the roster freeze lifts for trades. But essentially the way it'll work is you simply just pick the winners. So in the NHL, you'll pick the winning teams as well as in how many games they're going to win. So it could be 3, 4, or 5 in the play-in round because it's best of 5, and then 4, 5, 6, 7 starting in the first round because it's best of 7. But yeah, you pick the winning team and the number of games in the NHL for each series. And then over in the UFHL, you simply pick the winner of each matchup. So you look at our playoff preview article, which is on the website. It's got all the matchups side by side, the rosters, and you just kind of go through the rosters, and whoever you think has the strongest roster, you pick them. And like I said, the nice thing is it's free to enter, and the points add up over the entire playoffs for both leagues combined. At the end, the winner gets, again, some score tokens that will really help them with purchasing prospects and making other in-game transactions on the UFF Sports platform.
Or you could just do it for fun. I mean, if you have somebody out there, so that obviously we should point out that this is just for owners, franchise owners and scouts, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And if they don't want to go through the trouble of looking through the whole rosters, but we're talking about owners and scouts, so I'm assuming that they probably will. They can just choose a winner. I mean, the important thing is that they get involved in both the NHL Stanley Cup and the UFHL Klein Cup part of it, because if they don't, they're going to miss out on some serious points on the UFHL part of it or on the Stanley Cup part of it, right? So you want to be involved in both.
Yeah, and I think just from an interest standpoint, it's in their best interest to follow both playoffs and to really get to know their competition, and for the scouts to get to know which teams are the most active, which teams might want to. You just kind of get those relationships going between scout and general manager. It'll get everybody interacting, and it'll be a lot of fun to track both, like I said, the UFHL and the NHL. But I think, like you said there too, the big thing is the the UFHL and putting it in the spotlight and really getting to know our league and amongst the people that are participating in the league, which is very important. And I think, like I said, even if you don't necessarily, I mean, it's hard to know every roster in the UFHL. And of course, they're going to change drastically after the playoff draft on August 10th. The rosters going in right now into the play-in round will look quite a bit different after August 10th. But you could pick the team with the nicest logo, and it'd be worth it, right? Because if the nicest logos come out at the end prevail, you could potentially win some tokens and have some currency to play with it within the platform to add some prospects, which is going to be a huge part of your franchise's future, or for the scouts to purchase some prospects and kind of build their stable of prospects to down the road turn a profit, hopefully, if those kids pan out.
And I think what's interesting is that by Friday or on Friday, you also have to pick the Eastern Conference champs, Western Conference champs, and of course the Stanley Cup winner, and then the UFHL, the Allen Conference and the Legends Conference, and then of course the Klein Cup champion. And that's where things could really fall apart for a lot of people, because your team might not even be in it by then. So that's almost like playing a bracket challenge, which I've done before, and I did very, very well last year, I should point out, because I picked St. Louis and the Bruins.
Oh wow, that's awesome! Yeah, you couldn't have got it any better. And you're right. So you will be picking the NHL conference winners and the Stanley Cup champion prior to the play-in round. And then you'll get to evaluate the play-in round as well as the results from the playoff draft on August 10th before you have to pick the UFHL conference winners and the Klein Cup champion, just because the rosters will change so much in the UFHL going following the playoff draft. So it would be hard to pick a winner in the UFHL now, because that winner could lose a lot of players in the play-in round and then redraft a whole bunch of other players in the playoff draft, and it could be a totally different team. So we give them a little bit of a buffer to make their predictions in the UFHL, but certainly you got to be upfront with the NHL picks, get your conference winners and your Stanley Cup champion before any real hockey's played on Saturday.
But you could go with some of the teams that have hired good quality GMs, because that's happening now too, right?
Yeah, we've seen 2 or 3 franchises have hired GMs. I'm expecting at least one more, if not 2 more announcements between now and Saturday, because there's a couple teams still looking. We got a pool of general managers. I know some have been interviewed and are sort of in that mix. So I'm expecting a handful of teams to have GMs heading into the playoffs, and most importantly, heading into that playoff draft where it's going to be a quick turnaround between the end of the playoff or the play-in round, the playoff draft the next day, and the start of the first round the day after. So, I mean, there's a quick turnaround there. You want the right GM in place to really know the talent pool and make those picks to set you up for a good run at the Klein Cup.
So, a bit of a different subject. So this playoff pool, make sure everybody understand the deadline is going to be Friday. Check it out. Larry is going to have some information out there, I think already sent out on the website. So all the point values are there. All the rules are there. It's all explained, so you can read through it and I guess find out what you need to know.
Yeah, and you're right, Darren, that the bonus picks are going to be huge, right? I mean, when you pick your conference champions and your Stanley Cup champion, that's worth 5 points for each conference and 10 for the champion as well. And it's equal in the UFHL. So after that playoff draft on August 10th, you pick your Legends Conference, your Allen Conference, and your Klein Cup champion. Again, worth 5 points for each conference and 10 for the cup. So you could be in almost last place. And if you pick the right teams at the end, you could surge up those standings in a hurry. So again, every round the points escalate. So the play-in round's worth 2 points, the first round's worth 3, and it counts up all the way to 6 in the final round. So even if you're behind and you have a tough start and you go 0 for 8 in the first round, you're goose-egged. If you go 8 for 8 in the next round, or sorry, the play-in round, and then in the first round, if you go 8 for 8, I mean, you can be up to 8 times 3 is 24 points. And then if you get the right number of games in a couple series, you're right back in the mix. And I've seen that a lot with this playoff pool setup, doing it with friends in years past, where sometimes the team that's right at the bottom in the play-in round or the first round is leading the pack after the next round. So definitely don't give up if you have a bad first round, because the pool is set up that it's fair to everybody and everybody can catch up from one round to the next.
Right. So everybody watch or check your emails for that. Of course, you can find it on the UFFF website as well. I'm glad you brought up branding because, well, everybody knows, unless you're under a rock, you would know that Seattle launched their new NHL team and their brand. And at first, I don't know, I didn't really care for it. But the more I looked at it, I thought, yeah, actually, that's not bad. That's not bad, Yeah, and we can talk about that a little bit, but it really coincides with what is happening in the UFFS because we've seen a lot of fantastic logos and brands get released. And I actually think, Larry, that this is going to make some of the NHL teams be a little bit jealous.
It will for sure. I mean, to start the Seattle Kraken, I was on Team Kraken all along. As soon as I knew Seattle was getting a franchise, I liked that name Kraken, and I was hoping they'd go there. So I like the logo. I mean, it could have been a big, scary sea monster and been a bit more punchy. But I mean, I think the throwback to the Seattle Metropolitans as well as the Seattle Mariners logo, it kind of all blends in that way. So, I mean, I think they did a really good job on their branding, but you're right. The UFHL, some of our logos and branding are out there already, and there's a lot that are ready to go. We're just working on the Meet the Owners profiles, but as they get released, you're right. I think some NHL teams and certainly a lot of fans that will become fans of UFHL franchises that aren't involved in the platform, when they see these logos and these franchise names, I think they're going to be able to identify with a favorite team, and we're going to get some fans following these franchises, and it's going to be a big part of the future. Branding is huge, and we're seeing certain owners, franchise owners, already hiring their own graphic designers and really even some prospect agencies, some scouting agencies have launched now with their own logos and social media accounts, Twitter accounts, all the rest. So the platform's really taking off, and the branding has a ton of potential. And like I always say, you'll get out of this what you put into it. And a lot of owners are putting in a lot of time and effort to make sure they look professional.
Absolutely. I love some of the logos I've seen being put forward. And, I'm not against being sent some merchandise from some of these owners. If you would like, we can wear them on the podcast if you impress me enough. Fair to say?
Yeah, there you go. And I think we're going to get the merchandise store up and running here, hopefully in the fall, if not sooner. And I think once that's up, and again, most of these franchises, they're branded on social media. They have Twitter accounts and stuff, and they'll be putting out their merch, and they'll be trying to make some side money from merchandise and memorabilia. And Elite Assassins has been sort of the front runner, sort of been setting the bar high with Jason Hofer, the way he's branded his franchise. But a lot of people have seen how serious Jason's taken it, and they're trying to keep up on that front. So I do think whether that's selling jerseys down the road or hats or whatever the case, I think hoodies, T-shirts, it's no different than the NHL. They make a ton of money off merchandise and branding. And like you said, with how nice some of these logos and how cool the franchise names are and stuff, I think it's going to be profitable for a lot of the franchises in the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League.
Cool. Look forward to wearing some of that merch. Let's talk about some important dates coming up here before we get into the pro versus rookie picks. Friday, July 31st, deadline for the playoff pool. August 1st, we all know the playoffs are going to start. Lots of TV watching or PVRing or whatever you call it. August 10th is very important as well. Playoff draft and the lottery auction is going to happen as well, right?
Yeah, for the entry auction, which is the UFHL's equivalent to the NHL draft, which will be held on the same weekend as the NHL draft in October. October 10th will be the entry auction date, but the NHL will also be doing their, as we remember from an earlier podcast, they didn't have a winner of their original draft lottery, NHL draft lottery, that it's a play-in team. Whoever loses in the first round is going to have a chance to get that first overall pick, and Alexis Lafreniere. And same with the UFHL. The teams, the franchises that lose out in the play-in round will join the 7 franchises that didn't make the playoffs, and they'll be in that lottery to determine who the top 5 teams from that lottery will all have an equal opportunity at Alexis Lafreniere in the entry auction. So a lot of suspense there, and certainly the playoff draft, which will be all the players who are still on NHL playoff teams but belong to franchises that didn't advance into the first round of the Klein Cup playoffs. Those players will be put into the draft pool, and the UFHL franchises that are still going in the playoffs in the first round will then fill out their 23-man roster by drafting those players, loaning those players, or leasing those players from the franchises that missed the playoffs. So if you have, say, Edmonton beats Chicago in the NHL and Connor McDavid goes on, and the Royals beat the Yetis in the first round or play-in round of the UFHL playoffs, then Connor McDavid would be in that draft pool, player pool for the playoff draft, and the Grizzlies are sitting there with the first overall pick. So they got to be cheering for Edmonton and licking their chops if McDavid, if they got to be cheering for the Edmonton in the NHL, and they got to be cheering for the Royals in the UFHL playoffs, hoping they knock out the Yetis, and therefore they can have Connor McDavid as their first overall pick to go with Leon Draisaitl and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. So we know who the Grizzlies are cheering for in the first round, both in the NHL and the UFHL playoffs.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Not an Oiler fan, Larry. Not an Oiler fan, but c'est la vie. They won the Founders Cup, so I really have nothing on them, I guess. Scouting article. You put a lot of work into this, available. People want to check that out. It's on the website. Yeah, a lot of good information in there. Yeah,
so that'll determine or it's been released now, but it shows the 280 top prospects that will be available to the franchise owners for their protected lists, and certainly to the scouts to really, like I said, start to get their stable of prospects built. And the futures auction, which is 140 top prospects from the draft classes for 2021, 2022, and all the way out to 2023, which is 15-year-old kids right now. All the best names. I scoured the hockey world and made up my own rankings and put together these draft lists, and the scouts will be able to load up on those futures, and then both the scouts and the franchise owners will be part of the already drafted auction, which is all your recent first-round NHL draft picks from the last few years, guys like Bowen Byram and Dylan Cousins, Trevor Zegras. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's a who's who of top prospects, and the franchise owners will certainly want to be active in that auction and build out their protected list leading up to that entry auction in October, which is strictly, it's owners only in October. But yeah, so the 3 auctions that are coming up, but especially the 2 in August, give everybody a good base of prospects to build around it. And that will be the future of the UFHL, and the future of the NHL are these upcoming kids. So teenage kids. So these are the guys that they want to study up on. They'll have almost a month till August 15th to read the article and either take my advice or get a second opinion by Googling all these kids and looking them up, and then coming to the auction, and with obviously a budget as well as targets as to which prospects they want to acquire for their franchise or their scouting agency going forward.
Well, I think what's going to happen, Larry, is people are going to choose to take your advice depending on how you do in the pro versus the rookie prediction picks. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's get it on.
I got to level with you on a couple of things here. I don't pay attention the way I used to when I was younger, and I didn't have the job I have now and everything else and the time on my hands. So lost a lot of info on the players. I choose by the team I like. Okay. And I don't switch around from one team to the other based on how they did one year. I stick with my teams. So that's kind of how I operate. Having said that, it's served me fairly well. And that also is very different for playoffs versus regular season. Regular season takes a lot more talent in picking players. Playoffs, well, if a team, well, look what happened last year. I mean, nobody expected. There was a lot of playoff pools that were ruined because of what happened last year. So it worked well for me.
Yeah, I mean, you look last year, like I said, Boston and St. Louis going all the way. But look at the first round. I mean, Tampa was the best team in the league by a country mile, and Columbus knocked them out right off the bat. So, I mean, as we know, no matter any year, there's always upsets in the playoffs. Anything can happen, and even more so this year, because normally they're playing the regular season and they're all fine-tuned, ready to go. Everybody's, raring to go for the playoffs. These guys have all been off for 4 or 5 months, and nobody knows what to expect. So I think, like I said, it's almost guesswork this year, and I've been very preoccupied doing the top prospect list for the auction. So I'm pretty sure I'm no more prepared than you this time. So we're on even ground heading in.
Okay, so what you and I are going to do is we're going to pick the elimination round, team and number of games, both conferences, NHL, and then we'll also do the UFHL. And well, we'll obviously talk about or pick our winners for the Eastern Conference and Western Conference and the Stanley Cup champs. And then we'll see what we think about the UFHL in that regard. All Are we going to use the same point values? I guess we just didn't discuss this as the playoff pool. I think so. Makes sense.
Yeah, we can for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
then we can make our picks after each round as we go on the podcasts as well. Time permitting, if the podcasts line up, that'll work great.
Absolutely. And I guess we haven't figured out what one or the other guy is going to do if, in case you lose. Maybe we'll have to think on that and come back.
Yeah, we might have to come up with a side bet or
I
something.
have a couple ideas, and I just don't know if they're appropriate for today's show. So we'll think about this, and we'll come back on. So I think it's probably fair for those out there that don't trust that I'm just copying the pro, being the rookie, which is me. I'm going to go first in every instance, okay? So let's start with NHL, Stanley Cup, Eastern Conference elimination round, okay? So Leafs versus Columbus. I am going with Leafs in 5.
There you go. I like that pick, but I'm gonna not to be different, but I'm gonna, Columbus knocked off Tampa Bay last year in the first round, and I think they have a big, heavy team. I think the Leafs defensemen are gonna have a hard time handling Columbus, so I'm gonna start it off with a bang and take the upset. I'm gonna go Columbus in 5.
Okay, well, you know what? I've been a Leafs fan back when I was a kid, just like almost everybody, and I had to move on to other teams. Well, you know why, but I was giving them the benefit of the doubt, and I was really torn on this one, but I thought, you know what? It's in Toronto. It's a hub city. It's a whole different thing with this COVID nightmare, so that's why I gave it to the Leafs. Otherwise, I was so tempted to not go for the Leafs. Okay, next one is Pittsburgh versus the Habs. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh in 3, and you know why, Larry? Because I detest the Habs. So that's the only reason. So I'm going with Pittsburgh in 3.
I didn't know you were a Leafs fan growing up. I was kind of surprised that a Bruins fan would take the Leafs as well, because that might even be a bigger rivalry in recent years with all the Leafs-Bruins playoff series. But I'm going to go Pittsburgh in 4, and I'm going to give Carey Price is going to steal one game for Montreal. But I just think Pittsburgh has too much firepower up front, and I think the break for those older guys, Malkin, Crosby, I think that break's really going to re-energize them, and they're going to come out and they might go all the way, but Pittsburgh's going to be a team that lights it up in the first round, or in the play-in round anyway, so Pittsburgh in 4 for me.
Okay. New York Islanders versus Florida. I went New York in 3.
That's, you know what, Barry Trotz is a real strong coach, and he really gets his team going in the playoffs. If any coach can get the team fine-tuned in this little mini training camp and come out ready to play in the playoffs, it's Barry Trotz. I like the Islanders as well. I have them in 4, but I like the fact you've taken 2 sweeps. That's, sweeps are hard to take in the playoffs. That's brave, and so I definitely like the sweep, and I could see that happening, but I'll give Florida 1 win and go Islanders in 4.
Okay. Sorry, I had you down as 3. I better change that. I guess I was hopeful you were maybe going to align with me. Hurricanes versus the Rangers. I'm not taking a sweep this time. I'm going to go Rangers in 4. No real reason. Just going with Rangers in 4.
There you go. I like the Rangers as well. I'll go Rangers in 5. We're picking a lot of the same teams, surprisingly, other than Columbus, Toronto. We're 3 for 4. We've decided on the same team, so our smart minds think alike, hopefully, but I'll go Rangers in 5. I think that's going to be a great series. Carolina obviously went deep last year. They got some playoff-tested players, but I think the Rangers are a younger team, and I really think they'll be coming in with almost a nothing to lose, and that's a bit of a rivalry. Carolina or Hurricanes-Rangers are a bit of a rivalry this season, so I do think the Rangers might surprise some people, so I'll go Rangers in 5.
Okay. Yeah, we might be close on points. The differential is going to be the number of games. But let's see what we think about the Western Conference. Elimination round. So obviously this is a cool one for me. I'm really interested to watch this one. Flames versus Winnipeg, most definitely because of where I live. And I'm a fan of both teams, actually. But since I moved to Manitoba, the Jets have kind of grown on me. So I am going to go with Winnipeg in 5.
There you go. It's the only all-Canadian matchup of the play-in round, Calgary-Winnipeg. So that's going to be probably the most followed series across Canada just because of the all-Canadian matchup. I grew up in a family of Oiler fans, so I think I would be disowned if I ever picked the Flames in any pool. I'm an unbiased media member now, or unbiased communications man, but I grew up an Oilers fan, so I got to go Winnipeg in 5. I think that's going to be maybe the marquee series of the first round, and I think Connor Hellebuck will be the difference for Winnipeg, as well as I think Winnipeg just has more weapons, more firepower up front. So I like the Jets in 5.
Okay, well, we align on that one. Oilers versus Chicago. I'm going Blackhawks in 4. I don't like the Oilers, Larry. I can't pick them.
We had to disagree at least one more time. So I'll go Edmonton in 4, take the exact opposite. I think the Blackhawks, Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane, they got 3 Stanley Cups there. They got a ton of experience. But I just think with like you said, for Toronto, with it being the hub city in Edmonton, the energy, based on today's NHL, Edmonton has the 2 best players in the league. Leon Draisaitl, likely the Hart Trophy winner, and Connor McDavid, kind of the consensus number 1 player in the league today. So I think Edmonton will just prove to be too much for Chicago. Certainly offensively, I think Edmonton will shoot out the lights in that series. It'll be Oilers in 4.
We'll see. My daughter's a huge fan of the Blackhawks, so I would eat a lot of crow if I didn't somehow align with her. Next one is Vancouver versus Minnesota. So, I always go for the Canadian teams, unless, of course, they're the Oilers or the Habs. So I got to go for the Knuckleheads. I call them the Knuckleheads, but I do appreciate them. I'm going to say it's going to be the Canucks in 4.
Nice. I'm going to go Vancouver in 3. It'll be my only sweep prediction. I think the Canucks have a very deep roster. They're going to be healthy for the most part going into the playoffs, and they're a team that I think can really surprise. Minnesota's had some turnover with coaching, although they have a deep roster too. So I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota pushes that series to 4 or 5. But I felt like with you taking 2 sweeps in the Eastern Conference, I had to get at least 1 sweep, or I would look like I was scared to pick a sweep. So I'm going to take Vancouver over Minnesota, Canucks in 3.
Sometimes you got to bet big, Larry. So Nashville versus Arizona. I'm picking a sweep. I'm going Nashville in 3.
Arizona's turmoil going into the playoffs. Their general manager quit on the weekend, so you don't see that often. He had 3 years left on his contract, and he walked away from however many millions of dollars. I think he has another gig lined up already. It sounds like Buffalo is where John Chayka's going, but still, to have that kind of situation, cloud hanging over your team going into the playoffs, I think that's going to be a bit of a distraction for Arizona. So I'm also going Nashville, but I'm going to say Nashville in 5. I think that series will be pretty entertaining, and Arizona might surprise some people. They might be playing for pride, being that their GM technically gave up on them right before the playoffs. So they'll have some pride on the line, but I do like Nashville. I'll take the Predators in 5.
Okay. So let's finish out the NHL before we move on to UFHL. So we've got the Eastern Conference winner and Western Conference winner, and then the Stanley Cup champs. This, of course, is where the seeded teams are going to come in. We don't know which order they have to play their game before we know, who they'll play against yet. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and Eastern Conference winner. Of course, I'm going to go with the Bruins. So, I didn't pick how many games, or do we have to pick how many games?
Nope, just the winner who's going to come out of the Eastern Conference. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm going with the Bruins.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. That team, again, they're healthy going into the playoffs. Well, they have a couple of guys that are banged up, but I think they'll play because they got another week or so before they have to actually play any games or meaningful games, right? Like I said, they're going to play this round robin, and that'll be interesting too, because I don't know how hard those teams are going to go with nothing to really lose. And the only advantage will be getting a higher seed for last change and stuff. As you go deeper in the playoffs, you'd like to be the highest seed, the home team for last change. But the Bruins you can't go wrong with the Bruins considering what they did last season. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I made that call right here on the fly. I was going Tampa Bay Lightning coming in, and I think Tampa's the strongest team on paper in the Eastern Conference. But something tells me Pittsburgh, Crosby, Malkin, coming off this rest from the COVID break, I think if they get up to speed in that play-in round, I think they're going to really take off, and they have that veteran leadership. This might be their one last run, so I'll take the Pittsburgh Penguins instead of the Tampa Bay Lightning to come out of the East.
Yeah, good pick. You could be right on that. I wouldn't like to see it happen, but you could be right. Good pick. So Western Conference winner. Really, in the Western Conference, I don't know. I just don't know. So I should go with the Jets, and I don't know what it is, but I think it's going to be a repeat. I just went with St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, St. Louis, Boston, again, St. Louis is getting back Vladimir Tarasenko. Their lineup's basically those teams didn't have a lot of turnover in their roster from last season. They basically returned the same teams. So, I mean, it's hard not to go with St. Louis Boston. It could certainly be a repeat final. I took Pittsburgh. I'm going to go Edmonton in the Western Conference. Again, I just think you have the best players. Everybody's coming back. They're all sort of not up to speed. I think the real talented players will rise above. So I think we're going to see Connor McDavid against Sidney Crosby in the Stanley Cup final. And as much as 2020 has been a disaster with COVID and everything we missed out on, I think seeing Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid going head-to-head for the Stanley Cup, Edmonton-Pittsburgh would be awesome for everybody involved as far as revenue, and certainly it would get a ton of interest.
Now, don't get me wrong. I do like Connor McDavid. I'd hate to see the Oilers there, but I respect your choice. And maybe you're going with sort of the home field advantage, even though home arena advantage, even though it's kind of different with no fans. But Stanley Cup champions, I like I said before, I go with the teams I like. So I'm picking Boston. I'm going to the Bruins. They're
going to get their revenge for last year. They're going to come out on top and avenge that Stanley Cup final loss to St. Louis. That would be great to see Boston and St. Louis have that rematch and see the Bruins come out on top this time. That would be great. For my series, the Crosby McDavid showdown, Pittsburgh, Edmonton. I'm going to go Pittsburgh over Edmonton in 6 games, I'll say, in the final. So I like Pittsburgh's chances. Like I said, I just think that's a veteran team. They're going to see this as maybe their window's closing. They get one last run at the Stanley Cup, and Connor McDavid, once they get a taste of that final, it could be like the Oilers in the 80s. They'll be back there for a few years in a row if they make it that far. But I think the veteran team, much like the Islanders beat the Oilers in the 80s the first time they met in the final, I think Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin will carry Pittsburgh to their second championship together. So, yeah, Pittsburgh over Edmonton in 6 is my Stanley Cup prediction.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens with that. I think you went with analytics over your heart on that, but hey, analytics never hurt. So now we're going to go to the UFHL, which is going to be a little bit different because after the elimination round, we are going to see some roster change. So it's going to get different as we go on to the Allen Conference and Legends Conference winners. So let's start with the Allen Conference elimination round, and it's the Snipers versus Arlo Schultz. I'm going to go with the Snipers and really no real reason at all. I'm just picking a team. Oh, and I didn't pick in how many, so I'm going to go. Oh, no,
you don't need that.
It's points, right. Yeah.
The UFHL. So, yeah, the Snipers have a really good roster. I think, going back to that gut feeling that Tampa Bay is going to be one of the teams to beat, Arlo Schultz has Steven Stamkos. I know he's kind of iffy to play. He's going to miss the exhibition game anyway, but I think Arlo Schultz, if Stamkos plays in that round robin tournament, and again, they don't really necessarily need him to play round robin because it's not a official playoff game. There's nothing to lose there. But I think if Stamkos plays, that's sort of the deciding factor. It tilts it in favor of Arlo Schultz. I think he's got the edge up front if Stamkos is in the lineup. I like Snipers' defense, and I also think the goaltending probably favors Snipers. But I think the real edge will be if Steven Stamkos is playing up front for Arlo Schultz.
Okay. Dynasty versus the Bombers. I chose Dynasty only because I think they're going to take it really seriously, but it was close for me because I know the owner of the Bombers, and he's very analytical and he's got a great hockey mind. So I wasn't sure, but I had to pick, so I went with Dynasty.
I like this. We're going opposites in the UFHL. We aligned quite a bit in the NHL, and we're going to go the opposite, at least to start the UFHL. So for my Klein Cup prediction between the Bombers and the Dynasty, I'm going to take the Bombers. I think they're deeper up front. I think they have a lot of weapons as far as their forwards go. And certainly I think Dynasty's better on defense, but there's no real big names there. It's maybe the Bombers are outgunned on defense in comparison to Dynasty, but not a lot of big names. And I think the difference could be if my Pittsburgh prediction comes true and Matt Murray beats out Tristan Jarry for the starting job in Pittsburgh. I think the Bombers have Matt Murray, and that could put them over the top. So I got the Bombers over Dynasty.
Okay, got that one down. Power players versus Aaron Bell and Braden. I'm not sure how to say his last name. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what? No real reason, and I haven't dug through the rosters like you have. So I'm going to go power players. This is really weak because they have a name.
There you go.
How about that?
No spoiler, but Aaron and Brandon do have a name coming. They'll be announced before the playoff starts on August 1st. All the franchises in the UFHL have to announce their franchise name and sort of their logo concept by August 1st. That's another big deadline or big date is we'll get the reveal on all these other brands, at least their franchise names for August 1st. And I think Aaron and Brandon came up with a really cool name. I think everybody will appreciate the creativity that they did. So looking forward to that reveal. And I'm going to go with Aaron and Brandon. I think they have the bigger names up front, although the power players have a lot of budding talent among their forwards. So I could see a potential upset, or if you want to call it an upset, for the power players. But in my opinion, Aaron and Brandon have bigger names up front. They're better on D by a fairly significant margin. And the one great equalizer is the power players have your man Tuukka Rask in net. So if Rask is sharp in that round robin, the Aaron and Brandon have two backups in Robin Lehner and Jake Allen. So Tuukka Rask could certainly steal some points out there and maybe shift it for the power players. But I'm going to take Aaron and Brandon over the power players.
Wow, we're really opposite this time. You bet. This is gonna be a game changer. Battlehawks versus the Blizzard. I went with the Battlehawks. You know, no reason other than what I saw they did in the simulated Corona Cup, and it just seemed like if the computers know anything, it just was a good showing. So I'm going to the Battlehawks.
There we go. We got a hit there. We both are taking the Battlehawks. I do think on paper this is one of the closer matchups. So it's very possible we could both be wrong and the Blizzard could come out on top. But the difference for me is the Battlehawks are better on defense, and I give them a slight edge up front as well, although the forwards are quite close. And Battlehawks, when I look at the goaltending, I go with the Battlehawks again. So slight edge at every position. I think it's a close matchup, but forwards, defense, and goaltenders, I lead Battlehawks over Blizzard.
Okay. Let's go now to the Allen Conference. And I don't know, did I even write I think
Legends Conference for the next ones.
Legends Conference. I think I have another page here that I need to find because I had them all written down and I don't know where I put it. Okay, you'll have to tell me who's playing again.
Yeah, we can go Charisse Shoals against the Bandits. Bandits against Charisse Shoals is the first matchup in the Legends Conference.
Okay, I am going with, yes, and I do remember. I had them written down. I can't find it. I apologize for that, but I remember picking Charisse Shoals. So I'm going to try and find my paper only because I saw what she did in the redraft, and she just seemed to be on point, and she really seemed to have a knowledge of the game or something. So my pick is Charisse.
She really impressed in the redraft. I had a lot of franchise owners reach out and say how impressed they were with her performance. Just like you said, on point. And there's 23 rounds. She picked 23 players. She didn't mispronounce a single name. So, I mean, that in itself tells you that she knows the NHL and she knows the players. Some people would say she came out with a better roster than Arlo Scholes, her husband. So interesting there. And I know you picked the Snipers over Arlo Scholes. So you didn't go with Arlo and you did go with Charisse. I'm going to go with Charisse as well. In my opinion, just a slight edge at forward. She's got better defense. And I really like that she has Mark Stone and Taylor Hall up front. I think they'll be big contributors. On the blue line, she's got Roman Josi and Mark Giordano. All in all, I think the Bandits might have better depth up front and they might have better goaltending depth. But I think the star players, the difference makers favor Charisse Shoals.
Awesome. We agree on that. I just had to flip my paper over and there it was, my pick. So I'm good now. Duckman's Domination versus Blades of Steel. I went with Duckman's. Good run in the Corona Cup. And, well, Dean Millard is the owner. And the guy, I mean, he has a podcast. He knows what he's talking about. So I just went with Duckman's Domination.
This is the marquee matchup of all the series, all 8 play-in round matchups. This is the one to watch. This is the two teams with the most firepower up front. Again, Duckman's has Evgeny Malkin. They've got Jason Zucker as well from Pittsburgh. So when I was thinking Pittsburgh, that was one of the teams I looked at was Duckman's Domination, thinking they could go a long way. But you look over at Blades of Steel, they got Austin Matthews, Matthew Barzell. I mean, they're stacked. Those two forward groups head to head you can draw a line across. They're pretty equal. The edge might go to Blades of Steel up front, but overall, I think Duckman's domination, they're close up front, and I think they have the edge. Certainly on defense favors Duckman's, and goaltending maybe slightly for Blades of Steel. So like I said, that's close to a coin flip. It's going to be a barn burner, but I'm also going with Duckman's over Blades of Steel.
Okay, so far in agreement. Elite Assassins versus the Stallions. I went with the Assassins for simply the reason that you already spoke on this in this podcast today, but the passion of Jason Hofer, I think it's just going to shine through and it's going to give that team an edge. So I'm going with the Elite Assassins.
Yeah, Jason is definitely the I would say the most passionate, certainly on the branding side, but even the Corona Cup, he didn't miss a game of the Elite Assassins. He takes this very seriously, and I know he's maybe not a huge hockey guy as far as knowing all the players, but he's bought in and went all in on the Elite Assassins. He's learning the game quickly, and he certainly has an understanding for the business side and the branding side and the potential of the platform through digital currency and cryptocurrency, the blockchain. So I look at that, and I look at the rosters. Again, it's almost a coin flip for me. So I think similar to you, I think I went Assassins over the Stallions. Almost one wild card there is Aaron Ekblad on defense. I think the Assassins are a little bit better on D, but Aaron Ekblad's banged up for Florida, and whether or not he plays is sort of iffy. But the Assassins have Marc-Andre Fleury in goal. He stole a lot of games for them in the Corona Cup, and I think, I think Marc-Andre Fleury is a guy who is going to be key to Vegas. We never talked about Vegas much, but I think that's another contender to come out of the West, and having that big advantage in goal for the Elite Assassins is the reason I took them over the Stallions.
Okay, so far we're in agreement. So this one could come down to see if we're different or if we're going to agree here. The Yetis versus the Royals. I went with the Royals. Just hired a GM and coach, so probably pretty serious. That's the reason I went with the Royals.
So I said Duckmans and Blades of Steel were the marquee matchup. If there's a contender for marquee matchup, this is it. The Yetis and the Royals. You look at the rosters. The Yetis have Connor McDavid. The Royals have Alex Ovechkin. So, I mean, two of the premier players in the NHL as well as the UFHL, two stars that are looking to lead their franchises deep in the Klein Cup playoffs. It's a shame one of these teams has to lose out in the play-in round because much like Duckmans and Blades of Steel, they're very evenly matched, and those four teams might be four of the strongest teams in the play-in round, and they're matched up against each other. But, seeing Edmonton as my pick going to the Western Conference Final, to the Stanley Cup Final, I lean towards the Yetis. I think Connor McDavid, I know, like I said, there's no fans there, but I just think he wants to put on a show in his home rink and just kind of being the new face of the NHL. So the Yetis have Connor McDavid, and I'm going to take them over the Royals, although I think the Royals are probably slightly better on defense and goaltending. So for me, McDavid is the difference. He's going to outperform Alex Ovechkin in this opening round. Ovechkin has the round robin. He doesn't have to try overly hard. He can just kind of maybe go through the motions. I think Connor McDavid's going to be out to make a statement against Chicago. So Connor McDavid's going to carry the Yetis over the Royals for me.
Okay, so the big $1 million question then, Larry. Allen Conference winner and Legends winner. Are you going to choose? You know what? I don't know if I can let you off the hook.
I was going to take the high road because to me, it would be a total guess because, again, come the playoff draft on August 10th, the way it'll work is obviously the players that are in the round robin right now, those players have advanced to the first round. So all these teams that have round robin players, those players are going to be on your team in the actual playoffs. But all the players in the play-in round, that includes Connor McDavid, all those players, all the Pittsburgh guys, Evgeny Malkin, all those guys, they could all be knocked out. So if they're knocked out, those franchise owners have to, if they advance, they have to pick replacements for those players. So it's so hard. And I went and picked the Yetis over the Royals. So based on that, Connor McDavid wouldn't be available in the redraft because the Yetis would be advancing. So the Grizzlies couldn't swoop in and pick Connor McDavid because the Yetis already have him. So I was leaning Grizzlies if McDavid was there and they could go McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent, Hopkins. That trio would be almost impossible to defeat. But I think, I know you say you don't want to let me off the hook, but I think I have to take the high road here almost. It's impossible for me to pick without seeing these rosters after the playoff draft. And I think the same for all the people that are entered in the playoff pool. I think judging based on the rosters now is tough to do, to see who's actually going to come out of each conference and prevail as the Klein Cup champion.
Okay, good point. And actually, it would be a total shot in the dark, absolutely, to pick. I did make some picks because I was going to just, throw a dart at the dartboard and kind of go with it. But maybe I'll refrain from making my picks too, and we'll do that on the next podcast, perhaps. I think that should line up. Yes. And then we'll be able to kind of refine that, and we'll have also somewhat of a good idea of where we're at already, right, in terms of our points. So we can start to throw some stuff at each other.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun, whether we do that on August 11th or 12th, somewhere. It might have to be a midweek one after the playoff draft. We might miss the first games of the first round potentially, but I mean, that'd only be one game, and we can definitely get those picks in, and there's a long way to go after the playoff draft. So it'll be a lot of fun to see what the rosters look like coming out of August 10th, and that's when we'll really know who has the best playoff draft is going to determine who the favorites are in the Klein Cup playoffs. But at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to who advances in the NHL playoffs, because that's going to dictate who advances on these rosters in the UFHL as well. So it's a guessing game all the way through the playoffs, and it's going to be a lot of fun the rest of the way.
You bet. This is going to be a lot of fun. This was fun, the pro versus the rookie, me being the rookie, and I am absolutely a rookie. The playoff pool that is coming up, it's a great design. It'll keep a lot of interest, a lot of fun. And hockey starting again. I mean, everything is fun. UFFS is fun. Great having you again on the podcast, Larry. Your brilliance is appreciated. It helps me out very much. And I want to remind everybody that everything, a lot of things, great articles by Larry. If you need help, you need more information, on the website, www.uffsports.com. You can find us on Twitter. There's links there. This podcast will be on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And other than that, keep having fun out there. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let's get ready to watch some hockey.
Absolutely. The playoffs are right around the corner now. August 1st is a big day. August 10th is a big day, both NHL, UFHL, and the scouting auctions in the back half of August are going to be really huge and a great experience for everybody involved in the UFHL. That's where the scouts, they get in the playoff pool as well as the auctions, so they get some action finally. And the month of August is going to be huge for UFF sports in general, so it's going to be nothing but fun the rest of the way.
Awesome, Larry. Thanks again. Take care, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Darren.